That
was
the
Great
British
Bake
Off
Semi-Final.
Okay, so we did it almost as well as Mel and Sue did at the start there.
Yeah, we did.
even though we practiced that and then didn't do anything close to what we practiced. Anyway, this is the Washing Up. I'm Chris.
I'm Christy.
And that was indeed the semi-final, and Selassie went home.
Bye, Selassie guy. Just making up a song for Selassie's going home.
This is exactly what you tune into us for. You tune into us for the quality practiced songs.
Absolutely. That was me writing all day.
You know, it was like, you know, Stock, Aitken and Waterman, all three of them in the room at once.
Yep.
Forget Kylie, forget Rick Astley, forget Jason Donovan. It was all about you for a moment there. Anyway, this was the semi-final, and
it was.
To be honest with you, I think everyone going into this expected Selassie was going home.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm yawning because, I'm still yawning after the semi-final. But yeah, it was like no shit Sherlock moment. He's going home.
I mean, poor Selassie. I love Selassie. I genuinely do. He's an awesome guy. And
oh, absolutely.
And look, he didn't bake horrifically. He wasn't horrific in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, look, I couldn't bake like that at all.
No,
we've established that, but
he wasn't horrific. It was just that the others hit heights that he never hit.
Well, let's put it into context here. The others hit higher on the slope than he did.
We're going to be nice. I'm damning with faint.
Oh, okay.
I'm damning with faint praise here, okay? Because
right.
we'll get to that later on when we talk about the showstopper.
All right.
Okay. So it was Patissier week. So
yeah, it was.
And so Mel and Sue spoke a whole pile of French, and I think that the real MVPs of this episode were Mel and Sue. They remind you in this episode, and we saw it in Australia with Claire and Mel, and what an outstanding job they did. There are times where the hosts are really, really vital.
Absolutely.
And I think that when the stress amps up, in particular with the semi-final and the final, obviously with less people in there, it's important that the hosts can step up. But it's also important for them to keep people balanced and keep people centred and keep it a bit more lighthearted. And I think they did a really good job of that.
Just take the tension out of the air. Just go in, mop Selassie's brow.
Keep it. I'm sure sell the tissue on eBay later on.
I know. Just bottle the sweat. Or maybe she's, testing the DNA to see if he's a suitable donor for future children.
But it was an interesting week in terms of what they had to do and what they had to make. A lot of pastry, and especially with the first challenge, they were very strict on you've got to make full puff, you can't make rough puff. And I thought that was good.
Puff in the buff, which I was disappointed by, because it would have been great to have a bit of nude. Just a bit of nude to spice up the tent.
It's Britain, though. Do you really want to be naked in the middle of anything British?
It was warm.
What, 20 degrees?
Yeah, for them, that's fine.
That's baking.
That's baking.
Literally baking.
Yes.
But the fact they had to make pastry and not just rough puff, I think was good. And I think it was about time, semi-final, it's about time you actually stretch the bakers and make them do something.
Yeah. Now I'm just going to stop here because everyone's going to be hearing our dog barking in the background and our cats running around pouncing at things. I don't know what's going on, but apparently it's crazy hour for the animals in the house.
Well, full moon this week, so we've got animals carrying on.
Yeah.
And of course they're behaving perfectly right up until the point where we hit record.
Yeah.
But
they're all fine. They were snoozing.
But we have a menagerie, deal with it. So
okay.
Anyway, now that's out of the way. Going in, Palmiers for the first challenge.
Yes.
Now, Paul Hollywood made one of his great Paul Hollywood statements, which was they should be flat, because if it's not flat, it's just a pastry.
Uh-huh.
It's a pastry anyway, Paul. Don't mean to break, and I know what he means, but Paul had a lot of these. Paul had a lot of times during this episode where he just said something really basic, bland, and generic.
Well, as Stu said to him, "You're going off to banalities are us."
Yeah, and that was a good part, was that Mel and Sue spent the whole episode calling him on it. Every single time he did something dumb and made some nonsense comment that actually said nothing whatsoever, then he was there and he was commenting. They were commenting on him and they were saying, that was stupid. And they were pointing it out the whole way. And I really appreciated the fact they were pointing out the whole way.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I'm getting distracted by cats and dogs. They just focus, Christy. Focus on the Bake Off.
Channel
the Bake Off.
Channel the energy.
Oh, okay.
So Andrew and Selassie had basically decided before this episode that it was one of them.
Yeah.
They're like, the women are staying, they're fine, they're good, they're really good, they're consistent. It's going to be Jane and Candace will go through.
Yeah.
It's one of us. And I think that was a really nice way of Selassie going, it's me.
It's me, yeah.
Because when we saw last week when Benjamina went, Selassie was ready. I'm pretty sure Selassie was packed. I'm sure he had everything ready to go. He was going home and he was prepared.
Well, you saw the look on his face. It was bewilderment when they announced Benjamina.
It really was.
I think we all had that look on our face, like, what the?
And I mean, for me personally, one of the things that reinforced it was one of those two guys going was that Candace made hers with streaky bacon.
Oh.
And that was a win, automatically just a win.
Yeah, and Mary just going, oh, you could have this for breakfast. It's like, oh, yes, Mary, I'll do that.
And it was a bit interesting. And now again, I know it was recorded before all the decisions were made about Bake Off and its future.
Yeah.
But there were times where they just seemed to be calling out things they would never have called out previously. And there were little digs here and there. One of my favourite ones was where Sue's gone breadcrumbs and Mary's looked and gone dried breadcrumbs. And Sue's gone, I won't argue with you, Mary. I won't argue with you. The breadcrumbs are definitely dried. Which is really... It had a weird look. Again, I think the other thing was it had a bit of a weird vibe because everyone watching at home knew that it was over.
Yeah.
People then started looking for things, I think. And I think the semi had a bit of that going on.
Yeah.
Like when they said, to Paul, you're being nice at the end suddenly. And I know they meant the end of, that run. But it just came off as like the end of the series and you're being nice.
Yeah, he was allowing for melty cream.
Yeah.
See, I can be the good guy and the bad guy.
I'm everything together.
Yes, watch me be Sue. Now watch me be Mel. Now watch me be a baker. I am Paul, the super Hollywood.
So, Andrew did something that I love when the bakers do. He remade his puff.
Yes, that was brilliant. He just kind of went, okay, this isn't working. Let's redo it. And there was a little tiny bit of tension, but not panic. He didn't panic.
It was interesting because we've seen this in other series of Bake Off. You've seen this in this series of Bake Off. We definitely saw it in Australian Bake Off. Whenever somebody decided to be brave and rather than push ahead with a subpar bake and just go, I'm going to make this work.
Yes. When
When they stopped and went, no, I'm going to do this again.
Yep, time to do it again.
They traditionally succeed.
Yes.
Again, Olivia in the grand final of Australian Bake Off was a perfect example. Starts the final bake, goes, no, I've got this wrong. No, I'm not going to try to push ahead. I'm redoing it.
This is like wholemeal. It's complete shit. Let's do it again.
Scrapped it, went back, started again.
Yes.
And so, Olivia, friend of the show, Liv.
I know. Friends of the show.
Friend of the show. No, Liv did that in the grand final, and right there Andrew did it. And I thought that was probably the moment where Andrew demonstrated that he was calm enough to go through.
Yeah. No, but Andrew's predominantly got a level head. He'll dither about a little bit, but it's because he's kind of like making, like you can see it running through his head, like he's just checking things off his list. Whereas tonight, Selassie was on edge, and that's just not... I mean, his on edge is him just walking around whacking a utensil.
Selassie's on edge is that he can't quite get the rhythm right when he's tapping the utensils. That's about it.
Yeah.
Although when they were trying to get him to be emotional, when they were talking about family and they're talking about is this big for your family, and he's like, yeah. And you're about to cry, Selassie? He's like, no. We'll leave the crying to Andrew. I just thought it was beautiful. There were a couple of little digs where they finally showed that back and forth with each other that was really good.
Yeah, and it was missing through, it needs more. It just needed more.
Again, Candace had one of those, Candace-y sort of lines. I'm just rolling my nuts.
I snorted at that one.
You did indeed. And then you had Selassie deciding to go really intricate with his foals. Now, it didn't work because he underbaked it. But it looked impressive. It didn't work, but it looked impressive. That's so much of Selassie. Looks impressive, didn't quite get there.
But the thing is, Jane's were also underbaked. And this is what I don't get. So hers must have had the flavour going for it more than Selassie's.
Well, we're going to come back to that because I made a comment towards the end of the episode where I talked about the fact that the comments seemed to be weird. On one hand, they'd say, and again, it comes back to the showstopper where they say to Selassie that it's, they say to Andrew that you've done basic, which is good. And then the next sentence out of their mouths is that Selassie's done two things too basically.
Yeah.
So hang on, you can't say both.
Yeah, it seemed there's a lot of contradictions. And in this pastry one as well, like, they're pointing out to Jane, oh, it's probably gone soggy because you've used, like the pesto has oil in it as well as the sun-dried tomatoes. And that's a fair enough call. But so she basically won that round, the signature, and Candace didn't because they couldn't see her lamination.
It was, again, and the stupid part about it was they didn't come to the wrong decision. They came to the right decision at the end. Just the way they explained it was weird.
Yeah.
It was very unusual.
Yeah.
Sue also, one of my favourite lines of the episode where she said, you want to be the only cock in the hen coop. I like that. And it was weird because Selassie and Jane were in meltdown mode. Candace was very composed, even when they sort of liked them but found a lot of fault.
Yeah.
Candace was just composed.
She was. She had a game face on today.
So you had Jane
Mel helped to get a game face.
Yeah, you had Jane panicking a little bit. You had Selassie panicking a little bit. You had Andrew being calm and Reed doing a puff, and Candace just being pretty calm and going, "This is what I'm doing, and this is why I'm doing it." It was interesting. Then we get to the Sovereign, the technical. Now Paul decided to be the one to make Mary happy this time by filling it full of booze.
Yes, well, I did like how we go. Now this one is perfect. It's like, wonder who made that one, Mr. Hollywood.
Yes. You're going to have to be. It's going to be difficult, but this one here that's been baked by some random person. Let's just call him P. Hollywood. This is perfect.
Paul.
This is perfect, Mary. Look at this one. This is perfect, isn't it, Mary? Isn't it, Mary? You like my bakes, Mary, don't you? You like my bakes? Answer me, Mary.
I'm fucking out of here. Screw you guys. I'm going.
Channel 4. No. So he filled that with booze. Then you had Andrew and Jane talking about their caramel. Now Jane going, we all saw the fact that I can't do caramel. It's like, well, yeah, but, you would have thought by now you probably would have gone home and practiced it a little bit more. Apparently not was the answer to that question.
She might have been practicing other things.
No, I would have, if you knew you were going to, at some point, possibly going to need caramel again, I probably would have done caramel.
Yeah, there's a lot in the baking world, but she's probably practicing her panicking.
Well, no, she didn't need to practice that. That was A1. That was A1 level panicking. And Andrew then made a line that I yelled at because he turned around and he goes, the last time I made caramel, it went badly. But this time I'll make it. And I just yelled at the screen, not look like a penis! Because, we go back to the jousting poles, and I use the word pole quite deliberately.
Well, they had to replay it in the catch-up today, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Now, the reason I didn't make a lot of notes on the Sovereign, and the reason was that everyone got it wrong.
Yeah, it was just
nobody got nobody got the bake quite right. Nobody really got, like, when they were finding out which one they thought was the best, it was this one sort of got a bit of the alcohol in the middle. I think I can taste it.
Better colour. Okay, there's shards on there, but they're crystallised, but
they got to the point where they were trying to break them down based on who put the skin off the fruit.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't even the baking component, that's peeling fruit.
Like Selassie, you didn't remove your pith.
And he should have.
He should have.
And again, he should have. But
he should have done a what's his face? He Paul Verhoeven and pithed his pith.
He should have been able to do all of that, but the problem was that they weren't good enough in the first place.
Yeah.
And so they were splitting hairs, not because they were so good, but because they were all a bit meh.
But the choices as well have been a bit meh tonight.
And they got to, this is where we get to the final challenge, of course, the showstopper. And the showstopper, like semi-final, again, this was where in Australia they did the around the world cakes thing. We had 2 Schick-Tortes.
And 2 Italianos doing French.
Yeah, 2 Italianos doing French and the Germans doing Schick-Tortes.
And killing it, like all 4 killing it.
All of them blistering it and doing really complex challenges.
And making it really fucking hard
really
for judges.
Really complicated challenges for the semi-final. In the semi-final, or the final series of Great British Bake Off on BBC, we got fondant fancies. We got basically Genovese sponge covered in fondant.
We got a choice where they didn't choose to make it technically difficult. They made it time pressure difficult, which makes it annoying for the viewer because people are serving up substandard stuff, which could be done better. Mary Berry said it herself. Usually you make the sponge a day before and let it harden so you can come in and decorate it the next day.
Yeah, the problem for me with this challenge wasn't even, and we've complained in previous ones about the lack of technical difficulties.
And the Genoese, the overuse of Genoese.
But the problem for me wasn't even about the technical difficulty issue. The problem for me had more to do with the idea of that time pressure. This is something that normally takes, either overnight, ideally, but 8 hours, 9 hours, and by the way, you can do it in 3.
Yeah, so you get these substandard, shitty-looking cakes that come out. That could have been really pretty.
Which led to people like us sitting there and going, oh, that's crap. We could probably do a better job of that one out there. Look at the outside. I could do a better job of that. Well, I don't have someone standing over my shoulder with 3 hours time pressure going, make it perfect.
Yeah.
You're not doing it.
And for me, that takes how can I put it? That takes the love out of it for the bakers. That takes the enjoyment out of it for the viewers because we know that this could be done better in longer time periods. It's one of my pet hates, and I understand that it's a work day and that kind of thing for people on set, but it would be nice that if in food shows, like for MasterChef, for example, set a day aside where people can do some long cooking stuff. So like some actual stews, some things that you would cook at home, and include the cakes into this. Why couldn't they have cooked the Genoese the day before? Or being given Genoese.
Well, we know they make them every morning as part of the warming of the oven, so they could have done that. But I agree with you on that. It was simple for a semi-final, but again, it was the time pressure that made it complicated, and I didn't really like the time pressure element of it.
No.
Mel making fun of Paul going, you've all got to do well. She goes, yes, that's it, Paul. As opposed to doing badly, they should probably all do well. That's probably a good bit of advice there.
Mind you, where they've come from in the technical challenge, Paul's like, please, just someone do fucking well.
Make me something I can eat.
Just make me something I can eat.
Make me something I can
enjoy.
And then Mary Berry. I think Mary Berry decided Selassie was going home the moment she asked him the simple question, do you sieve your flour? And I know he redid it, but the moment she had to say to him, do you sieve your flour, that was it. He was going home. It didn't matter. He was going. He was done. It was over. And then the other interesting part about this challenge, and this is where I think it sort of falls into an interesting category of challenge itself, Paul and Mary then set about convincing the audience that this challenge was difficult. They stopped and explained to the audience, no, this is really difficult. Trust us on this. They've never done that before.
Yeah, and we're like, okay, we get it because it's within 3 hours. Good on you guys.
So
Woo.
The fact they actually had to stop and explain that was ridiculous. Now, the buttercream on the fancies. This is the reason why I don't like finicky baking, with apologies to my good colleague, the finicky baker. Patience. I don't have that patience. Right, I'd start doing it. My hands would want to just crush the cake in half. I couldn't do it.
Isn't there some way you can just get like a little like a dipping mechanism to dip your buttercream?
You mean like Jane's beautiful use of the potato masher?
Yeah,
that was genius. That was genius. I think when Mary Berry goes, I'm a pourer, but even I have to marvel at the genius that is that technique. I also found it fascinating that Jane makes more mess in the kitchen than I do.
Trust me, I know your mess.
That's an effort. Now,
it's one way you know that I love you is because I'll clean up after you in the kitchen.
We had then lurking Mary and lurking Paul.
Did you even acknowledge that?
I did.
You just looked at me like, yeah, you should.
Of course you should. I make wonderful food.
True.
I'm like, what do I feel?
It's just balance.
But we had Lurking Mary and Lurking Paul. Lurking Mary was scary. She was far scarier than Lurking Paul. It was where Candace is baking. She goes, "Hello, Mary," and Mary just sort of leans into shot, like she's on like a pulley.
Stalk him.
No, they're pulling the rope, and Mary just leans in.
Hello.
And hello.
making here, Candace?
Hi, I'm Mary Berry.
And I'm here to haunt you. Maybe she's dead. That's what happened, and she's full apparitioning. What's it called? What they call it in Ghostbusters? It's a level 4 apparition.
A real nasty one too.
A real nasty one.
You know what? This, unlike Slimer, who's sliming people, Mary Berry is just being nasty by judging their bakes quite harshly. Now, what I think was good with the judging, when we came to the judging, Candace under pressure.
Cool's cucumber.
Put her under pressure as she suddenly produces.
Yeah.
Right, those fancies were good. Andrew...
He orchestrated some fancies. Get it?
Selassie was done, and he knew when they were judging them. Selassie said,
I made little ones because I didn't want to make them too big.
Well, he kept on getting in trouble for making things too big when they were supposed to be bite-sized. So he made something bite-sized and they went too small. And he's like, hang on. Every other time I've made these things, you've gone too big. So I went small and you've gone too small. Okay. They said that Andrew did well because he went simple. And then the next moment with Selassie, they went, they're a little bit basic. Which one?
What do you want? Are we going on semantics here? And maybe they mean simple is different to basic and...
Well, probably, but again, all they had to say was, Selassie, they're not quite at the standard of everyone else.
Maybe Mary Berry was like, oh, this is so he's a basic bitch. Is that what she was trying to say? Like, to be slinging it up?
But then the next thing, Mary's like, no one will miss Selassie more than I. And I'm thinking, well, he winks at you, so probably.
Yeah.
And he used a lot of booze. And Mary's going, my push is leaving. It's terrible.
Licked a lot of cream.
Winked
a lot. Flirted with the ladies.
Flirted with everybody.
Yeah.
So, there's not much to say about the semi-final. It was very...
Except, I think it was Mel's salient point when she's gone, Jane, don't get obsessed with Andrew. He's obsessed with you.
And he was. Every time Jane took something out of the oven, Andrew leant over and looked at it. Every time Jane did something.
That looks good.
Like when Jane was trying to test her, was trying to test her technical. And he's studying it intensely to see what she's doing. It was really interesting. Also, the other interesting point about the showstopper was that everyone else went with the small tins, and Jane just made a full-size cake.
Jane went, fuck this, I'm making it big.
So
I will be like Selassie.
So we end up with a final three of Candace, Jane, Andrew.
Yes.
I think it's fair.
Ginger, Posh, and
I think,
Baby.
Look, the only one I would have said could have broken into that would have been Benjamina.
Yep. If Benjamina was here this week, if she'd have stayed across, I reckon she would have been in the final for certain. I think she would have tipped down Andrew.
Well, given they gave Andrew Star Baker, I don't think they would have.
Oh.
They probably would have. They probably would have tipped out
Candace.
No, Jane, because Jane was. They remember they said that Candace was up for Star Baker. So
true.
Probably would have tipped out Jane. And the thing was, I don't think Jane deserved to go out because I think Jane's been the consistent.
Good.
She's been the consistent baker over the course of the show.
She just hasn't had any confidence, and like. I sit here thinking, is it a generational thing? Is it like her circumstances in her life where someone's just like made her feel like she can't do stuff? It's like, I really feel for Jane. I just want to see her confident and knowing she's capable.
And hopefully that's what we'll get to see in the final.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a confident Jane in the final.
Yeah, just to, to acknowledge that she can do stuff good. Like read and stuff. And second Zoolander reference for the podcast.
It's in your record.
Yeah. And she just, and then take risks and calculated risks.
So I think what you've got flashy, which is Candace. You've got consistent, which is Jane. And then you've got, and it's weird to say Andrew's a wild card given that he's a very structured baker. But it depends on what he constructs.
Yeah.
He may well construct an oven to bake his own cakes.
You've got the
like one that just
scientist.
He puts the ingredients in the thing and just hits a button and it makes all the cakes for him. And then Andrew's going to win everything from here to the end of time.
Look what I produced.
I know, unusually for us. Unusually for us though,
what?
A short episode.
Yeah, so I reckon we should just tangential off for a bit because I haven't had many tangents to go on this episode. There's not a lot there to tangentialise on.
Well, before you tangentialise then.
Yeah.
And we're now inventing phrases and words.
Why not?
Just a quick thank you to everyone who listened to the Food Nerd Vanity Project.
I was going to bring that up so you didn't have to, so you could have sounded humble.
Okay, so
No, too late now.
I'll sound humble. So do you
braggadocio.
have something you wish to discuss then?
Why, the other day I listened to yours and Fee's first podcast of the Food Nerd Vanity Project.
Oh, did you?
I thought it was rather good.
Why, thank you very much. We tried really hard to make it quality.
What inspired you to start that podcast?
It was the ability to talk like this for over an hour on a podcast about food. No. I mean, realistically, again, it was good fun to do the other night. We're doing more of them. It's Chef's Table again. Watch ahead. We're doing the next 2 episodes, including Nancy Silverton, and Nancy's. Fee's very keen to get to Nancy, and both in terms of the podcast and just going over there and getting to Nancy. So we'll be doing those later on. But no, it's been good. We're hoping to get some special people drop by. We'll see what happens with that. The next one will be shorter, we promise. The first one had to be a bit long to introduce it to you. But no, we had a lot of fun doing that.
I loved listening to Fee nerd out. Like,
it's great.
Listening to her nerd out is like, you learn so much, but you also, like, he's a woman with a passion and a talent. And she's doing dog biscuits.
She is, and they're spectacular. So we'll put a link up in the.
We need to order some dog biscuits to shut that one up.
Hey,
Fee, if you're listening, can you make a big stopper that would keep a dog entertained?
Can you make a gobstopper that'll work for, say, a ridgeback?
A ridgeback that'll last for about an hour.
Yeah, that barks simply because I'm not standing next to him.
Yeah.
Which is the whole reason why he's barking. I'm not standing next to him at the moment.
Yeah.
Which I might go and do in a second to stop the neighbours from lynching us.
Yeah. Oh, poor Leo. He's having a night of it, isn't he?
He's not having a good one. So, anyway, with that speaking, we'll be back next week for the grand final of the Great British Bake Off.
Grand finale!
And we may/will have some guests. I say guests because there could be more than one. You never quite know. I love your music under the background.
I was trying to give it a bit of like sizzle.
Ambience?
Yeah, ambience. Just like, try and make it exciting.
Well, no, it's the Bake Off finale. It is exciting, even though the series hasn't been necessarily as exciting as you'd hope. Yeah. I think that this grand finale is a grand finale, and they're always interesting.
Yes.
So it'll be fascinating to watch. We'll hope to have a couple of guests on, possibly. Definitely one, if not more than one. Got to make some phone calls. Got to check a few things up. So until the grand final, although, again, I'll see people tomorrow on the Food Nerd Vanity Project. I've been Chris.
I've been amazingly funny. No, I've been Christy.
And this has been the semi-final, and we'll catch you later.
Bye.